Peace, peace, peace. My other video, somehow, somebody got full. But anywho, I'm going to continue this. Part 2, continue it. But again, peace to all. We're purging. For those of you that are on this journey and will come to this video, you're purging. It's like from your womb space, our women, men, you're purging. And some things you don't even know how it looks. You're not even prepared for it. And that's what an awakening can be about. It's like you're purging something, then you're like, it's like you're waking up from a dream or waking up from something like, what the fuck is this? Is this earth? What is this? What is this? And you will feel like you've been lying to yourself your whole life, or you've been lied to. How does that feel? That doesn't feel normal. Mom, you lied to me. Government, yada, 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 whatever it is. And see, these are different stages for people. These are different places where people that isn't discussed. Because as I was expressing to someone earlier, it's like you have to see from your childhood, you're so connected to the divine, always been. Some of you like always had this imagination. The trees are alive, they're speaking to me, the beautiful flowers. It's just like a child. So a lot of this has been covered up over time through programming, through, the childhood woundings, through spiritual warfare, through, when you look at the word ID, then you look at identity. If you take the ID off of it, it's entity. Through entity attachments, through spiritual warfare, through being misguided, through the feeling of you thinking you taking one step ahead in a direction, and in actuality, it's like you've been spinning in a fucking circle, or you've been doing like this, it may seem. So a lot of which is the awareness on, again, going back to a man, or acknowledging this. I'm acknowledging it and expressing this to our mothers about me saying, a lot of us are afraid of commitment. I can say I'm afraid of it. Does it mean I do not desire it? No, it's just like, it's like something you can't even put into words, because you don't really, I'll say for myself, I just now learned at 33 what it is to be committed to myself. What it is to really be myself again, as that of a child, like being that experiencing spiritual warfare since I came out of my mother's womb. And for some of us, especially me, I will say some of us really, what is really freedom? What is really freedom? What are we fighting for? Most. To free our minds, to free ourselves. Most of our lives, a lot of us we don't even realize that you've been in prison. Imprisonment of not only the mind. Some of our women, like, they feel imprisoned in their body. Men too. Because of what has happened to them in their childhood. So the false narrative of even how we can take on things like, oh, I freed myself. Or we tell ourselves, oh, I'm free, I'm free, I'm free. You've been telling yourself this how many years? You've been trying to find an escape through religion, through your careers, through, your kids. Vicariously living through things that never brought fulfillment. And I actually sat down, I actually sent the message, and I would call it a confession, but I really was saying it to myself, but I knew certain people who deserve it, and then some that, again, will that I will express certain things to, but I share these things because a lot of us aren't, we'll come to this awareness, but again, as men, if someone truly loves themselves, I expressed to someone and said, you know what, you know, if I could recall, like I was like, you know, some of us will wait around for someone, and that's because of what we learn. We fall in love with potential, and really, once you start loving yourself, you stand in love. You don't fall for anything. You begin to stand. And so I said this to one of my amazing, great friends that we never had relations, no type of anything, maybe an exchange, a kiss. But what I'm getting at is just the fact of I expressed to her like how I was afraid, and it's not, and I was saying it's not your fault, but I was afraid due to what I experienced and me acknowledging my own pains and what I've experienced with women, my experiences with them, and then taking into account to me being on my healing journey. It's like we free ourselves when we just be authentic and honest with ourselves and others. You know, because I felt like a part of me, not that she was waiting or anyone, it was that freeing myself to even like throwing like a rod out there with bait on it and then expecting this person to one day grab at that, you know, that hook, and knowing that I had my rod out there in the sense of like, you know, they're on there, and let's say never really pulling it in, but knowing that that fish cannot free itself, but it still is hooked. So a lot of why, again, with men, we never saw commitment in the home. We never saw stability. We never saw a functioning environment. So this is why a lot of us will connect with women, and I'll use the term as womanizing, you know, getting what we can. And in reality, no matter what we feel we're gaining or will gain from it, and literally what men will do, like they'll get this, what they feel they can get, and run off. Because that will be the little boy in them that fears, you know, they'll get comfortable with, they'll see what's comfortable, and then sometimes what they fear the most is something that reminds them of that wounded child, that wounded little boy, that reminds them so much of their mother. So this is why some of us do naturally cling in a codependent way to women, if you that we could prey on, or it ain't even just so much prey on, it's just so much of, they remind us so much of what we experience with our mothers, and the disillusion or the confusion of it all, the dysfunctionality of it all, is that we would cling to the dysfunction before we actually embrace the nurturing, the unconditional love, or the woman who actually is secure within herself, who actually honors and actually can speak up and actually can stand in her own power. And that doesn't, and how that looks doesn't look the same for all women, but I'm saying this for a lot of women to actually realize that a lot of what, all men hold this image in their mind of a woman, and that woman, you know, this spiritual aspect of this is rooted in whatever they experience with whatever women and men. So before a lot of us judge is that, let's say some men didn't have a mother and they had a father figure, or let's say some of us had or went through some type of physical abuse or verbal abuse or sexual abuse. their connections or relationships will reflect that in so many ways. I've learned this even with abuse, like growing up in an abusive home. Um, me thinking that that was normal, not really being emotionally in tune, not really acknowledging at the time what I was doing, how I was doing it. A lot of which when I was there was just to simply, it made sense to me. So even in my own innocence, it made sense to me. And so that's why even in my own experiences, some like I would lie either because it would be because to avoid confrontation, or I would lie to simply cover up the tracks, or I was so more comfortable with a lie to simply shut out, disregard, or dismiss the emotional reaction that I knew that reminded me of my mother. So a lot of men won't say this, but I'm here to let you know, ladies, because again, men, it happens both ways. But this is about our mothers and women and daughters healing and reclaiming their power. Because this is why I always share with y'all. It's like, again, we need you to know your power and the accountability to where me as a man speaking about this and knowingly, sometimes we knowingly there gets to a point to where you knowingly know, like, okay, now I'm at this age or I have this awareness. So I know something in this isn't so much of being right, but there is going to be some consequences to it. So again, a lot of men are living out or tried to hide from subconsciously is their childhood wounding. So they live this out through the feminine aspect or the reflection of who they are, which is the women, you know, and the mental illness around this is like the fear of committing because they never saw it. They don't know how. It's just like a narcissist. Like a lot of us, again, were driven off narcissistic, people who were control freaks. A lot of us came from homes where, in a spiritual aspect, were Jezebel women. Women who, not all, but some women who, I know most of what I've learned was from the women that, again, and it's not to point fingers at them, it's because I only reflected and lived out what I saw from my own experiences. I didn't see. I can honestly say now that I'm the only one. Not to say there aren't other men, but in the past, or what I represent in the patriarchal in my family, the only one that speaks about holistic things or acknowledging healing or the rebellious spirit, because that's a part of breaking generational curses and chains. Because a lot of us, I know me, when I was young, I never felt safe at home. I'm now learning at 33 to now walk into stability, or what it is to be stable within myself, so that can be reflected outwardly. Again, we gotta see the bigger picture, or see, we so easily can get with someone. It's something I learned, is that even co-creating with people or meeting people, what's their backstory? What's their family lineage? And more so, before we even lay down with someone, what type of agreement are we coming into with someone? What type of, do we really know what they're battling with mentally? Do we even care to know? Do we even, as people, because we become so numb to seeing so much